sorry, Commissioner Jennings.
Present.
All right, Vice Chair Eisen.
Here.
And Chair Stamper.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, would someone like to motion to approve the minutes for last month's meeting?
Do we need to do a roll call to start the meeting?
Roll call. But
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you just want me to begin the roll call, John?
we already did the roll call.
I meant for the approving of the minutes.
Approve it for the minute. I was only going to suggest that at some point we'd like it to be good to let RJ introduce himself and deal with that. Maybe I'm missing it I'm not looking at the agenda. I apologize.
We do have it, John, in
Great. I apologize,
city council update.
I need to pull it up. I'm sorry. Mute me and I'll get off of here.
No, I think it's a good point. Welcome, new member. That's super exciting. Thank you for joining this commission.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
RJ, you want to talk about yourself for a minute? Give us an intro.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. So been here in Half Moon Bay for 3 years and I consider myself very involved in the community and usually bringing my voice somewhere in the city council. So I felt it was a natural progression to actually stand up and get involved. So just appreciate the work that you all have been doing, and we're seeing the benefits at our parks and around the city. So I'm just happy to be a part of this team. I'm an executive coach here in the Bay Area. My wife and I have an office here in Shoreline Station, and we have a 3-year-old. So whatever we do is preparing for his journey as we move forward. So thank you for all your efforts.
All right, well, welcome. Very good.
So excited to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, can we take just a minute
Yeah.
here?
So
to
what's
take a
next
look-
then? Now.
to take a look at the minutes from the previous meeting?
Yeah.
Would you like me to pull it up in a share screen?
That would be great, because
Give me one moment to pull it up here. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to scroll
Yes.
down to the minutes. Can everyone see it okay? Would you like it bigger or smaller? Is that okay?
Looks good.
I can see it.
Okay. I'm going to just slowly scroll through. If I'm moving too fast, please let me know.
yeah, keep going. Okay, here we go. Policy approved. Harvard District. Project.
Okay.
Station updates.
Cool. What's next?
Parks Master Plan update.
Yep, I remember all of this.
I would correct the not interim CM for me,
Yeah,
but ACM. Does that get caught on there if you look up there?
I see it. I'll adjust
Okay,
that.
thank
Yeah.
you.
You don't want to be the interim assistant or a city manager?
No.
Cool. Yep.
Okay, and then report outs and
Okay. Could you, by the way, RJ, do you have a copy of this? Because I think it would be really good for you, if you don't, to have a copy of at least what all of this that was discussed last month.
yes, this was in the agenda that I sent out, so he
Yep.
should have a copy.
Yeah,
of that.
Maggie forwarded it over to me, and I've read through it all. And
Okay, great.
interested in connecting with some of you on a few of these things, just so I can understand it more.
Okay,
But
great.
thank you, Paulette.
Yeah. All right, so I'm moving to approve the minutes from last month.
I second.
Okay, let's do a roll call. Commissioner Eisen,
Yes.
Commissioner Jennings,
Yes.
Vice Chair Eisen,
Yes.
and Chair Stamper.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, what's next?
All right.
I have a quick
Okay.
announcement I'd like to make. Just something I wanted to share with the community, and we'll share in other ways, but definitely I think there's a connection here. Many people may have heard about an incident at Smithfield on Monday night. It's been all over next door. It will likely show up in the review tomorrow or later today. To sum it up, there was an individual, an unhoused individual, parked in a van in the evening. Some individuals, presumably from our community, once some of the other activities out there that night had ended, harassed this individual, damaged his vehicle, put him in a very dangerous situation that was only resolved probably because he got on his phone and called 911, and it became clear that was happening. There was damage to our Smithfield facility as a result of this. Luckily, the individual is safe. He's doing okay. I met with him today. We're working with the sheriff's office on an investigation, and this isn't something that's going to be treated lightly. We expect this to be investigated fully. We believe that part of the reason that these individuals, if not the entire reason these individuals behave this way, is because the individual was homeless. And I just want to make an affirmative statement from the city that we won't tolerate this kind of behavior in our community and these types of actions towards anybody. And we will pursue this fully, and we will press charges, and we expect to identify the individuals and address this across a variety of ways. Completely unacceptable in our community. Our city council will not stand for it. Our staff will not stand for it. And the fact that this took place at a city park that's supposed to be welcoming to everybody and a safe place for everybody is despicable, and it will not be accepted and tolerated. I can't tell you what will happen. We don't know yet. We have to allow the investigation to happen. But I needed to make the affirmative statement to our community that we will not accept this kind of behavior. And frankly, if anybody knows anything about this incident beyond what they've seen online, if they have direct knowledge, we'd encourage them to approach the city or approach the sheriff and provide whatever information they have, because if these individuals think they can behave this way towards a vulnerable member of our community, there are lots of different vulnerable members of our community. It could be an elderly person, it could be an immigrant, it could be a child, and we have to nip it in the bud right this moment. So I just wanted to share that, make sure people understood that we're taking this seriously and that we're pursuing it with law enforcement, and that in the work we're doing with the sheriff's office, they're taking it seriously as well.
Thank you. Yes, that was super upsetting.
All right. The next item is public comments or non-agenda items.
I see no hands raised.
No hands are raised at this time. If you would like to make a public comment on a non-agenda item, feel free to raise your hand and I'll allow you to talk.
Go ahead. I think it's,
Okay, we'll move on. I'm going to pass it over to Eddie.
Okay, city council updates. We've had 2 city council meetings since our last Recreation Commission meeting. We have some items of interest from the September 6th meeting. The city council adopted proclamations recognizing Hispanic Heritage Month, September 15th through October 15th, and Suicide Prevention Month, the month of September. For our September 20th items of interest, City Council authorized the display of the LGBTQ progress flag on City Hall for the month of October, which is LGBTQ History Month, different than Pride Month, which is in June. The council also authorized contracts with the civil engineers for the Frenchman's Creek Park Phase 2 project, as well as authorized contracts for continued work on Smithfield Master Plan and work towards environmental and land use permits. And finally, the council appointed Mr. RJ Jennings to the Half Moon Bay Recreation Commission. So we want to thank him for volunteering his time to be here with us, and welcome to your first official meeting. That's all I have for our city council updates. I have 2 recreation updates for you. First, I'm glad to announce the completion of the security camera installation project here at the Half Moon Bay Skate Park next to the community center. If you remember, we started this project back in February or March, and due to a lot of supply chain issues, the project took a little bit longer than expected, but we're proud to announce we have 5 cameras up and they're working, and we hope we never need them, and they just act as a constant deterrent for any bad behavior or issues we had been seeing over there at the skate park. And then finally, we had the Summer's End Music Festival this last Saturday, and went off with just almost without a hitch. It was a beautiful day, great weather. All of our amazing partners came in full force and helped us pull off the event. I think it was well received by people. We definitely had a very elaborate kids family area and performance stage, which was, everyone had a great time. We had some interesting feedback. There were a lot of people that liked to have this event on Main Street versus Carter Park, like we have held it historically. Some folks made suggestions, maybe we have the event on Main Street again moving forward, but then move all the concerts in the park in August down to Carter Park, but probably conversations for another time. But I do think the event was successful, and those of you that came out, Vice Chair Eisen, Commissioner Eisen, Walt was there. It was great to see everyone. I want to thank you for coming out, and I hope you had a good time. And that's all I have for recreation updates.
My daughter came down she's 18, and was just commenting on how much it made her love living in Half Moon Bay downtown, because what she did was we listened to music and then walked and looked in all the stores. And I think it's nice as an inspiration to check out Half Moon Bay downtown.
Awesome.
All right, our next agenda item is an art donation update for the Spirit of the Bell, which we talked about at our last meeting. And I believe John will be presenting on this one. All right, John, whenever you're ready.
thank you. Thank you, commissioners. Maggie, thank you for bringing that up. I'm so thrilled. With that, once you go to the next slide there. So last meeting, the commission was presented by City Manager Chittister a proposal from the community for a donation of a large bell sculpture. I have a feeling that many of you by now have probably walked by, driven by, seen it, heard it, as it is in a temporary placement in City Hall. And in that conversation, there were a number of discussions that started to occur. But the main piece in part I'll just sort of hit on are the considerations that are under the public art donation policy, and which we believe kind of has gone, and I screwed up, didn't fix that location thing on that slide. These are in the policy. I think you pretty well covered this as the commissioners. I'm sorry, RJ, you weren't there, but we'll try to bring you up to speed. And I think you had some background information in that in the memo to give some information. Next, please. So the artist is Silvio Modena Jr. and Navy veteran. And as part of sort of his coming out from work and working through things, he developed a love for basically compressed air cylinders and started making bells. Next, please. And so today, just to report that the city manager did approve a temporary installation in the parking space closest to Main Street, right next to City Hall. If you look to the right, that's the Rotary plaque and the Rotary mural that is on City Hall. And this exists today, and it was put up. And the recommendation is for this to remain through December 31 and allow some of this other issues to sort of resolve, hopefully in context of a more permanent placement. And we are asking for you to affirm sort of this temporary replacement or placement of this site. And a real special call out to Eddie and Matthew and the mayor and all those community members who made it, I think, a special day for the artist with a special acknowledgement at the Summer's End event on Saturday. Next. So what's kind of evolved over this time from the last meeting is that several community members have come forward, talked to Matthew, talked to myself, talked to other staff, talked to within other community members. And their kind of vision is to look at trying to create perhaps a public space in the driveway and parking area that is located between City Hall and the Posh Moon Nanos building to the south. And sort of the idea behind this being sort of some form of salute to service and acknowledge those that have provided service to the community, both from armed forces as well as perhaps other services as well to community. That's yet to be fully formulated, but that's the concept. The Rotary is, I think, excited about it. Their motto is service above self. So they engage in that and have been involved with that mural location before and some of the things. Kikuchi and Kankel, Steve Kikuchi has come forward to offer his services pro bono to the community and is actually in the process of working on some conceptual designs for this area. And basically tonight, staff is requesting some input and direction for possible creation of a public space. And just quickly, what the vision is to actually close this driveway down. We would relocate the disabled parking spaces, the accessible parking space in there back further away from that point, but take this area and create a public space. We're still working with Nanos with a license agreement and in terms of what their footprint might be for a continued presence there for their parklet, but to try to create something that's a little unique and interesting. And with that deal, one of the driving forces of this is that driveway and access point onto Main Street is probably one of the least safe access points on Main Street. I think most of us have been through there and kind of concern to that. So that's part of this issue, but I think it's also the idea of trying to create this this community space. Next. So your the staff memo has these 4 recommendations listed out there. I'll let you read it. I don't have to read it for you, but kind of the gist of all of this is to again affirm the temporary placement of the bell, and you can see the pictures here on Saturday at the event. To basically recommend that the council accept this donation of public art, that you affirm if you feel that way, to move forward with some concept and planning and work toward perhaps creating a public space there, and basically ultimately accept Kikuchi and Kankel's generous offer to do some design work. As we said in the staff memo, anything moving forward from that point will require some form of community process and community involvement and community design concept. No one believes that this can be done and should be done in a vacuum of just a few people, a few community members, a designer. But basically the idea with the Kikuchi Kankel work is to start a conversation, not to end a conversation about what this might look like and dealing with that. And obviously all of this is subject to the council's final action. Your actions is a recommendation, not a final action, but it is considered very, very important by the council, and they are looking for your input. So with that, I will stop talking, and if there's any clarifying questions, typically that would be appropriate at this point. What I would suggest, if there aren't clarifying questions with that deal, open it up to the community and then come back for further deliberations. Just seems typically the best path for conducting this conversation. But I'll leave that to the chair and to the commission.
Thank you. I guess I just want to reiterate that so we're asking clarifying questions about your request to receive feedback on the new parking lot design and also the acceptance of the art. Is that right?
The primary issues are, should we accept the sculpture, and the temporary placement is in essence is a loan right now. So that's why number one is a little interesting. It's really about the temporary placement of it because it's on loan to us. Ultimately, we are looking for a permanent location. So we are asking for commission input and recommendation on accepting the permanent donation ultimately for a permanent location. And then if you wish to provide input further than that in terms of whether you think that the City Hall parking lot area there has merit to looking at as a public space, then 3 and 4 sort of address that issue.
Okay. Does anyone have clarifying questions about this?
Yes, John, if there's any way, I'm a little hesitant there with number 3, just because of the way it's worded. Is there any way maybe to recommend the city council accept the donation and allow, but not confirm the permanent placement of the sculpture within the City Hall parking lot? You know, something that it just seems to me anyway, the way this is worded, it feels like we're really moving in this direction, whereas I would want to entertain it, but I don't know that, you know, that I'd like it if there's any way to word it so that it's not like this is what we're doing kind of thing.
I'm happy to work on a modification of the language if that's the choice, and a recommendation coming from the group. I apologize for that feeling. It maybe like that was so definitive and everything with that. I think the record certainly will create, and certainly what we convey back to the council is whatever you as 3 of you or all of you choose to deal with. But we can explore, we can change, how about we explore the permanent placement of the sculpture instead of allow.
Explore is good, or consider.
Okay.
You know, accept the donation and consider permanent placement of the sculpture within the City Hall parking lot.
That was the intent. So it's a little firm.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyone else have clarifying questions?
John, I have just a thought in here. Just the wording that is used at the end in terms of, you know, like I love this idea and understand that we're honoring Mr. Moderna and all the service people. And I just want to make sure that all the service people that it's not a loss, like it's not like sort of a tag on. I wanted it to be, I would love to see it be prominent that all members of service are recognized in this. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think that's the intent. This again has to be, this is a beginning of a process, but your comments will be duly noted for the council report. We'll go to the 18th is our plan to go to present this if you pass this forward, and we can certainly confirm that. But there's a lot of moving pieces on this one, but I think that is the interest of all parties to try to identify it, not just as service in the context of armed services, but other service to the community as well.
Thanks.
One of the things I will say is from Silvio's perspective, his request all along is it to be an active, open, and not a memorial, not a celebrating the dead, but celebrating the lives of those rather than a memorial. And his request is that no matter what we do, that it's about service as an active action, not as a memorial, as in the dead and the deaths that occurred. So that's something that he's made very clear, and the community want to honor that. And I think everybody who's involved in it, including the Rotary Club, the Chamber of Commerce, and everybody that's been talked to, confirms and agrees with that concept.
And the word he's used a lot is tribute. It's a tribute to those that have served and that do serve.
Thank you, Matthew.
So public comments?
I don't see anyone with their hand raised. Oh, here we go. Aaron. Oh, Aaron, did you still want to speak? Okay. Go ahead, Aaron.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate, Silvio is a friend. He's a naval vet. The whole concept began as a tribute to every member of all the armed services, including the Navy, the Army, the Marines, the Merchant Marines, and the Coast Guard. That was one of his requests and sort of the starting point of all of this. And with the engagement that we found from the community, the whole concept of service above self and service to your community in general is the overarching idea of the public space idea. But the sculpture itself, the Spirit of Life, is dedicated to every member of all of the armed forces, including the Coast Guard, the Merchant Marines, and the rest goes out to the broader idea of service to your community and civic service in general. So just wanted to toss that in there. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to make a public comment at this time? Okay, going to stop sharing my screen, if that's okay. And does someone want to motion?
Well, before we motion, is there any other discussion about this that we any of us have on this subject before we entertain a motion?
Just about to. I mean, I had a couple pieces of feedback having looked at the art this week at the festival. Just a comment that if it is going to be temporarily by City Hall, I did not at all love the cage around it because I felt like it really detracted of ways that it made it feel really not good. And so I just really noticed that the artwork, when it was in its own like uncaged state, was really elegant and beautiful, and the picture that you shared of it in his garden is really striking, and you don't get that when it's caged. So I really recommend that if it's going to be in a temporary state, there's a way to not have it with the big metal caging around it.
Chair, if I could, I think everybody agrees with that. This was placed very quickly, and we have not had a chance to anchor it down. So this was a quickie deal to just try to protect it for this point. But I think the objective is, even in the temporary, is to look at anchoring it in temporarily, but anchoring it in and allowing that to open up. Great. And have a much better perspective on that deal. But this was a a very quick and dirty work there to try to get it out and there and to protect it from being climbed on, frankly, without it being fully bolted down to the ground.
Okay, good. So that was my first question. And then regarding the placement at City Hall and the idea for the new veteran tribute park, I love that idea, and I definitely support all of what you discussed there. So I don't really have additional questions, but I just wanted to express support and the idea that I really love the trees that are there, and I think they should help accentuate the park.
I think Aaron and others absolutely agree with you from our conversations out in the field.
Great.
I think Steve Kikuchi, everything he's working is working around those two trees.
Great. Yeah, they're gorgeous. Okay. Anyone else have comments, questions?
Okay, I'm not sure about this location, honestly, for the bell. I love the bell. Let's start with the fact that I love the bell. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful piece of work. I think this artist does great work. I love it. The question is, where is it best situated in Half Moon Bay? I am certainly more than open to entertaining whatever rendering will come forth about the bell being in the location next to City Hall. I'm totally open to it. It's just, it's hard for me. I mean, visually, I'd love to see it perhaps at Carter Park, and have it be sort of more useful from a standpoint of using it to to gather, to ring the bell and to gather people, whatever is happening. So I'm a little more interested in seeing it in a different location, but I'm as I say, certainly open to seeing what this might look like, because obviously if these people are donating their services to come up with some kind of rendering, they probably have some kind of vision already as to how they see this unfolding, being in that location. So yeah, I'm open to it, but it's not my first, it's definitely not my first pick.
Anyone else? So if no one has additional comments, then I guess the motion is oh, yes.
Can I interrupt? I apologize. Before we take a motion, we missed something at the beginning of the meeting because of a connection issue. We have our assistant city clerk on here. He needs to swear in Commissioner Jennings. So Commissioner Jennings. I would much appreciate it. And hopefully Walfred's connection's a little better now.
Who swears him in?
Walfred Solorzano is going to do it remotely here. He's our assistant city clerk.
Okay, thank you.
I just moved him to panelist, so he should be over in just a moment.
Wow, now the pressure's on.
Walfred, are you there?
Sorry, yes, I am. I have a pretty poor connection, so sorry about that. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I have a pretty poor connection right now, but I'm ready to swear Mr. Jennings in.
All right.
Mr. Jennings, if you can repeat after me, please.
Sure.
I, RJ Jennings.
I, RJ Jennings.
Do swear that I support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Do swear that I support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
I will bear true faith and allegiance.
To the Constitution of the United States. and the
to the Con-
Constitution of the State of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of allegiance,
and that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
And you are now sworn in on the 28th of September 20.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now we can vote.
Okay, so we need to make a motion.
Okay, I will make the motion, but Maggie, can you do me a favor and get that back up on the screen so that I can do it properly?
You can do two things. You can,
Yeah.
we can bring that up, or you can move staff recommendation with the change of to explore, and that'll be for the record and adequate, or we can bring it up and you can go through it.
Okay, well, I was going to do that, John, but okay. But so I move to, one, accept the loan of the spirit of the life bell sculpture created by Silvio Medina Jr., a Half Moon Bay resident and accomplished artist, and two, affirm the temporary placement of the sculpture in the City Hall parking lot at least through the end of the calendar year in honor of Mr. Medina's service to his country and for the service of all Coastside veterans. And three, recommend the City Council accept the donation and explore the permanent placement of the sculpture within the City Hall parking lot. And four, authorize staff to work with Kikuchi and Kenkel Design Group on a pro bono basis to develop a concept plan for a new public space utilizing the existing drive aisle and parking lot located south of the City Hall building.
A second.
Okay, let's do a roll call. Commissioner Eisen,
Yes?
Commissioner Jennings,
Yes.
Vice Chair Eisen,
Yes.
and Chair Stamper.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right. Now we are moving into our next item, which is another art donation request. This one will be discussed by Miss Lisa Lopez Rossi. And I'm going to bring up her presentation now.
Thank you, Maggie, and thank you, Chair Stamper and Commissioners. Tonight, I'm a little bit far from my regular role as Administrative Services Director. I have the privilege tonight of bringing to the Recreation protect and preserve Mr. Lozada's work. Of course, they involve Lois White, his daughter, who's actually also here tonight, and thought of ways to be able to bring his art back to the quality of which it was intended, and also preserve it so that Half Moon Bay has a living history of this man who was so active in the art community in Half Moon Bay. Not only did he carve, he also was an artist, a musician. A lot of times you could see him at open mic at Cameron's playing his drums. So he was very, very active and very much loved throughout the community. So much has been accomplished with all the retrieval and rehabilitation of his sculptures. Some of them are still on the property and actually will remain there. However, two of the sculptures have been refurbished, and Lois would like to donate these to the city of Half Moon Bay with the thought of putting them in the library garden. And the next few slides are showing kind of the thought process that it goes behind this donation and where we're thinking that they would get the most visibility and people of all ages could enjoy them. So Maggie, if you can. So these are the two pieces. The one on the left is referred to as Innocence, and the one on the right is Artemis Toe. So these are the potential location. We, Todd Seeley and I met with Miss White and Joyce Logan, who is informally chairing this art group that's behind this project. And we were looking at spaces behind the library and the garden. The first arrow is a bit misleading, and I apologize for that. I was trying to kind of show the garden as a whole. We're not proposing putting them in the midsection, but behind it, if you'll see on the picture to the right, near the fence by the tree, we found that for somebody to really appreciate these pieces, it's going to be important that they're placed in a way that the public can walk around them. Maggie, can you switch it? And so what we like to do, they're superimposed, they are not in the garden yet, is put them in this spot in the garden. And then Todd and I talked about the possibility of providing a very small walking path that goes around the pieces, which would be placed on a cement block so that they're stable and solidly placed. And the path would go around, you know, a little, either a brick path or a stone path would go around these sculptures so that people could walk around to get the full impact of the pieces. The first on the left is actually what we're proposing. Now, Miss White has generously volunteered to, once the concrete is in that they would be placed on, is to work on making it a little bit more personal and doing a dedication to her father, Ken Paul, on the cement so that it stays permanently. And I believe, yes, that's it. And I apologize, I am not as prepared as John, and I did not put the recommendations on a slide, but basically what we're looking for tonight, after I answer questions, and of course, if there's any public comment, is to accept the donation of the wood sculptures, affirm the placement of the sculptures in the Half Moon Bay Public Library garden, not specifically the location I showed you, but in the garden. Recommend that the City Council allow for the permanent placement of the sculpture within the Half Moon Bay Public Library garden, and then authorize staff to develop a plan with library staff and community group for permanent installation. Showed you the proposed places where we'd like to put the sculptures. It's, you know,
Okay, Lisa.
yes.
Has this been already presented to Annie, to the folks at the line, that they are already, you know, interested, like it? Do you have, you know, that community?
Something that obviously city groups, the commission and the council would like to do, but yes, Annie she's actually the person that referred the group to the city.
Okay.
And so
the JPAs, although we certainly have a relationship with them, but this is not an issue of needing their authorization approvals or anything for this. This is our building and our facility and our site.
Interesting. Okay.
Anyone else have any questions?
I do not have questions.
I'm just going to say it's a little hard to visualize based on, sort of just putting that in, on top of the earth there, as to how that's going to really look.
Do we ask for public questions next, or can we provide additional feedback such as let's comment?
Either one, take your pick.
I mean, my initial reaction was that the landscape lends itself to like sort of natural artwork, given the rock seating things that are in there. So it certainly feels like the right direction if we were going to add artwork to the library. I also feel like the landscaping, at least as shown, is pretty sparse. So it certainly accentuates, or maybe accentuates not the right word, but it certainly adds more visual appeal to the area for sure. Just like more texture, more variety of heights of things. I can't tell what the plants are that are planted next to it. So I guess just one thought is noticing if the plants that are there are going to get very large. I know that some of the landscaping can grow pretty big over time, and then they would kind of get covered up. So I don't know if there are any thoughts about that, but I'll just flag that.
No, thank you. And Todd Seeley, who's our Public Works Superintendent, actually did the walkthrough with me. And so he is the one, his team is the one that does care for the landscape at the library. So that's another reason why we looked at this spot, because the plants were sparse and the ones that are growing there are not going to be the ones that overshadow like the tree, like a tree would grow and block view.
Okay.
But we definitely wouldn't, and we wouldn't be taking any plants out. That was important to us because of all the work that went into the landscape at the library. So we would work around the plants that were there.
Yeah, and I mean, I also just will comment that the sculptures are another visual element that don't require watering, which is right now thing too. So I like that about the sculptures also. My last thought was you put them together on the left and then separate on the right. And I think your last comment was you were going to keep them together like they are on the left. So this is no.
Yes, that was the group's recommendation.
Okay.
We did them separate just so you could look at the pieces.
Okay.
But the idea is to keep them together because they were intentionally made to go together. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Hillary in terms of I love the idea of the wood, the wooden natural, and that because that was the whole concept of putting that library together. And almost everything in that garden area is wood, and it's just that part of it fits very, very well into the library landscape.
Are there any other art pieces that you guys are considering, or did this kind of come about specifically it sounds like it kind of came about because of his work, but I'm curious if there have been other discussions of other artwork that has felt wrong or that you're considering at all?
As far as I know right now, and John could probably speak better to this, or Matthew, but as far as I know, right now we're not considering. This actually was a specific request made by Miss White and the art group. And they actually had put a lot of thought into this before they brought it to the city's attention. So their thought was, and they're active community members, so they're very, very aware of the space at the library. And so the donation was actually specifically made to put into the garden of the library.
Yeah. Okay.
I could interject for just a second, Chair Stamper. Could you please turn your camera on so we can maintain the quorum?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Thank you so much.
I accidentally turned it off. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess any other thoughts from city folks about any other artwork that has come up in the library that would be conflicting with this, or no?
In my time working with the library, this is the first item that's come up.
Okay.
Ditto. We had the huts go in. That was kind of our bit of the art pieces, but that was part of the original work there. But no other requests have come to this point.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions, or shall we?
No, I think this is great. And as long as the people that are donating it are happy with the location and the city's happy with the location, I think it's just an addition to our community. I love this guy's work. I remember seeing it all the time.
Yeah.
Right behind that area, kind of being like, how does he pull that stuff off the beach? Like, how does he even big items? But yeah, I'm all in. I think the library is a fun spot for it.
Cool.
I'm having a little bit of an issue, just because I'm not sure we're going about this, in the right sort of sequence. I just feel that to come to us would be good to have like the library saying they're fully behind it. Maybe friends of the library as well, especially if with friends, want to fund the cement part, so that, and the plaque part of things, or who is going to be doing that, I don't know. But I don't know, I'm just feeling a little bit uneasy about just saying yes, just because, I'm just not sure about the whole sequence of it.
Can you clarify the funding?
And if I may, I'll just share that what the commission's role in this is to make a recommendation to the council. And so there's a couple different things we could do here. You could caveat your recommendation to the council tonight on having the support of the library and having those conversations with the friends if we want to keep this moving along. So just wanted to put that out there. We still have a final step of going to the council with this anyways.
Yeah, that's kind of the direction that I was heading to, but I am curious if there is a discussion of funding yet of who will cover the cost of the installation.
So the public works superintendent said that they actually will undertake the installation because it is not a high cost to the city. And the staff is actually very experienced in laying rock to make the little path that goes around them. The cement block is actually, we thought about ways to make sure it's secure, and using cement is probably the least expensive. The actual restoration of the pieces, it was the higher cost, and that was all done by donations and this art group who donated their time and their materials.
Okay.
And when we take it to count, I mean, obviously, I did not prepare a cost because we do have to go take it to that final step. And we have fiscal impacts when we do go to the council. So that will definitely be part of the report, but I can assure you it's not going to be a large amount.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Paulette that it would be helpful when making the recommendation to know what we're recommending in terms of cost to city. But other than that, you know, it's one of the caveats that I guess we can use. It's just the hardest one to caveat. Like, assuming that the project is not unduly expensive, and the Friends of Library all agree, do we recommend this to the council? Might be the question that we could vote on. Does that sound reasonable, Matthew? That sound reasonable to anyone?
Sounded reasonable to
Matthew
me.
gave you the
I'm
thumbs
sorry, I
up.
gave
Oh,
you
he
the
gave you
thumbs
the
up.
thumb. Yeah.
Matt,
I'm all about the
staff
reason.
was concurring with it with a thumbs up. Sorry.
We got your back, Hillary.
I would say that.
So that being said, oh, go ahead, John.
I just say clearly the policy and the donation policy was developed around the idea of this not being a cost or generally a significant cost to the city. And that's what the objective here is, to do that. There will be donations in which I can absolutely say will involve a lot more cost, and that's not something that and that's something the council would have to choose whether they want to do that. But I think the policy itself was designed around those making the donation would also look at the idea of trying to facilitate and pay for the installation. This is a little different in that just the pieces are relatively small, very small area, and something that we can do in-house, and it just seems to make sense. Back to the bell sort of issue, which is that the community has come forward and said, let's look at this, let's deal with that. And I can envision a scenario on the bell particularly in which there will not be significant community investment in whatever happens, if there in fact is a public space created and that's something that'll have to be evolved. And that's why the council may choose a different path.
Okay, well then why don't I make a motion to recommend this statute to the city council with the caveat that the Friends of the Library and the library support the project, and that it will not have an
Second.
Okay, we'll do the vote. Roll call. Commissioner Eisen,
Yes.
Commissioner Jennings,
Yes.
Vice Chair Eisen,
Yes.
and Chair Stamper.
Yep.
Motion carries.
If I could add one thing before I go, and it has nothing to do with the motion you just made, but just to let you know as well, this is actually a wider community effort. They are actually going to be restoring a large amount of Ken Paul's work, and is going to be displayed at the Coastal Arts League in January. So we're hoping to kind of tie this all together, which is why we're coming now, so that we can have the time to work through all these things. But we're excited that it's going to be a really nice community event and a way to bring together people around art. So thank you all, and thank you for letting me bring it to you.
It looks really cool.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Great.
All right, we are going to move on to our next item, which is Frenchman's Creek Park Phase 2 study session. And I believe we have Melanie joining us today. Melanie, I'm going to pull up your PDF whenever you're ready. You just
So I'll jump in just briefly and say welcome all of you, but RJ, and I don't believe have met Melanie in some form or fashion, but Melanie and Gates Associates worked on the Smithfield Master Plan. We asked Gates to continue on working with us toward phase 2 of Frenchman's Creek Park. The staff memo kind of covers a lot of the basics of this. And I won't go into great detail, but only to say is that we committed to replace play equipment at Frenchman's Creek Park right off of Rousseau Francais because it was reaching the point of dangerous and challenging there. And we went through a community process. Some of you here on the commission were engaged with that at that time. I think we had a great process and a great opening for that equipment. got caught up in terms of delivery and issues with supply chain issues. But we finally opened that. And the next step we had committed to the community was looking at phase 2. And phase 2 was intended to expand a little bit into the play area and look at perhaps swing sets. We had looked at some other options, including a half-court basketball. Bottom line, we landed on, because of the Frenchman's Creek riparian corridor there, that we just couldn't make that work. So we were going to have to downsize back, and the community understood that. And Gates has come back with some concepts. And as noted in the report, although the easterly section of this area was ultimately identified as phase 3 in the original work that take a look at the design and see where we can land in terms of cost with that, and bring it forward. And at least we can get design and civil done on it, whether we can afford to go and do that easterly. Let's get a head start in terms of design and concept. So tonight, we want to do a workshop, much like what we did with phase 1, the playground. We did provide mailed notice to the neighbors, the community there. E-News, we went to the council to talk about this. And so we're hope that we did reach out to some of those folks, and we have them tonight. Beyond that, we do plan, based on your thoughts, recommendations, to come back with a pop-up meeting out at the park with the community. Again, notice the community out there and the broader community as well. And with that, Melanie is here to walk you through the design that we're looking at there. The process tonight would be, our hope would be to, one, obviously clarify any questions that you have. Hopefully have some folks from the community tell us what they think. And then again, move this forward by allowing us to perhaps proceed to scheduling that pop-up and talking more in the community. And certainly the commission will be invited to any event and engagement activities that we have. We welcome that. If there are any specific with that, I'll turn it over to Melanie to just walk through the design quickly, and we can move on from there.
If I could just say something to the attendees, we'll take public comment after Melanie does this short presentation. It's only four slides, I believe. Yeah, okay. I'm going to bring that up for you, Melanie.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, Chair, Commissioners, John, staff. Thank you for having me back. It's exciting to be working on a new project with you all. So this is Frenchman's Creek Park. Just a quick context slide so you can see where we're talking about. It's on Rousseau Francais Avenue. I probably said that wrong. The two red areas are the areas of the park we are looking at specifically tonight. Next slide. So here is a quick slide showing you the preferred concept master plan done by Calendar. You can see in red is what we are looking at tonight. In blue is the previous playground updates. And then in yellow is a future phase possibly. So like I said, again, we're only looking at the two red areas. So the area outlined in red in the middle is a play area expansion, and then the area to the left of your screen is kind of the passive pathway and barbecue area. Next slide. So here we go. Let's start first on the right side of your page. We'll look at the expanded play area. So you can see number 14 is the round existing play structure that was recently installed. What we've done to plan around that and kind of make this a more cohesive space for neighbors and visitors alike. We've provided pull-in parking. So there would be 2 stalls. One of those is an accessible stall. We have provided a new concrete walk and small plaza area at the entry where there's a bike rack, some trash and recycling receptacles. There is a low, split rail fence to kind of keep the park separate from the street on both sides. That's on both sides of the parking. You can see kind of a dash line with squares on it. That's your fence. And then as you enter the park, there are 2 seat walls that allow both for some separation between the parking and the street and the kids playing, as well as an opportunity for seating, as well as an opportunity for, I believe there's a bulletin board or a donated some type of wall. So there's some space for that in a very central, prominent location that visitors to the park will see. And then we've added this new concrete plaza area with 2 picnic tables and a drinking fountain. So the picnic tables are number 4, the drinking fountain is number 7. And then we've expanded the play area. So that's on that brownish area that's marked with a 2 and a 3. It would be poured in play surfacing. Right now, this concept shows a 2 belt swing, so 2 swings of the belt kind. And then number 3 is an independent kind of spring rider. It's a ladybug. It's ADA accessible as well. And then we'd love to chat a bit about how the commission feels number 5 should be handled. So that's the new turf, whether it's synthetic turf or lawn. I think that's a discussion we'd like to chat about. You can see with the new play features, we're kind of eating into that a bit. We are, though, very cognizant of the existing riparian area. So that's number 13, and we want to stay out of that as much as possible. That you can see the dark line kind of between the riparian area and our grass area is an existing fence that we want to remain and keep in place to keep people out of the riparian area. Along the street, again, we have some accent planting just to kind of jazz up the new park space. We are not proposing any new trees in this area. You can see with the riparian area, and then a couple of trees along the street are mature and are no need to install new ones at this point unless the commission thinks otherwise. And then if we look at the area on the page left, so that would be the easterly portion where the passive picnic area. So we've improved the parking again to allow for better pull-in parking. There's a new concrete walk, as you get out of your car, and then also as you may arrive from the street. And then there's a DG, decomposed granite walkway, to a decomposed granite, plaza with 4 picnic tables and a barbecue. And then the area you can see dashed in blue, kind of between the new picnic area and the new paving, is space that could be used for a bouncy house, just to show the site context and the size, and that there is still space available if people wanted to possibly rent this area or show up early with a bouncy house. So this is where we're at with this concept. I do want to go to the next sheet because we looked at another option. It's not as pretty as this, so I apologize. Another option where we have a 3-bay swing. So this swing would have 2 belt swings and then that companion swing. So you can see up in the corner, it's become, the companion swing has become a pretty big staple as far as new swings in most parks, as it allows for more use, whether as a kid by itself or kids and a parent can be in there too. And it's a bit more accessible than your standard belt swing. So there's an option to, increase the size of the swings and kind of scooch a bit more into that green space. You can see the 2-rail fence or the split rail fence that's there. It gets pretty tight now between that spring rider and the existing fence. So yeah, those are the 2 options we have. I'd love to hear your thoughts on if you think we're heading in the right direction, the 1-bay versus 2-bay, or the 3-bay versus 2-bay swing. I also think it'd be interesting to have a discussion around the type of lawn, whether it's turf or synthetic, and then also anything else. I'm happy to answer any and all your questions that I can.
I'm gonna just jump in here. We've had of recent conversation, a lot of talk about synthetic turf, and I'm going to jump in and say there is no choice. It should be natural turf.
Okay.
And deal with that. So if commission can take it up and deal with it, but I want to, I'd like to be on the record that staff is recommending that it be not. There are reasons why Gates and Melanie were talking about this. Simply put, we've had unbelievable issues with gophers. We've had major complaints from the kids trying to play there, of all the holes in the gophers. At one point, I think in a year's time, we removed about 70 gophers out of that area, and they will continue to go. So I own that one a little bit, because I'd said, well, could we look at that simply so we're not breaking ankles out there with the kids playing? But I think it is just with the Smithfield conversation and debate. I'd like to remove that off the table and leave it at natural turf, and not have further debate about that, frankly.
Sounds good.
I've got a question about that, John, though, because I'm feeling like I'm not understanding something. The natural turf was to me where the gophers go.
Yes.
So that's not going to discourage gophers. That's going to encourage them.
It is what exists today. And the commission is welcome to put forth an alternate position on this, but we've had a major conversation debate going within the community about Smithfield, which is a bit out in beyond where Smithfield master plan should really be in a conversation. This one is talking about a real design point and everything deal. And I also say the parks master plan really emphasized and focused on natural turf rather than synthetic turf. Doesn't mean that it cannot occur, but clearly there was policy recommendations around focusing on the natural turf. It means, yes, we have to deal with pest control, as we've done all along, and deal with that, but the kids will play on natural grass surface there under that scenario. I'm just
so the gopher issue would not end up being neutered. We'd still have a gopher issue.
Yep.
Plus we have the issue of watering and water, because I know my lawn in the summer looks like absolute crap because we don't water. So given we're here in California and all the issues with water, I'm just not sure about this. I mean, are those the only options? Either that, synthetic, or natural turf?
Well, this area is intended and has been intended and has remained a place for kids to play and kick around the ball, toss around, and it is a relatively small area. This, in terms of what is actually irrigated and turfed area, we're actually reducing the amount of turfed area and the amount of water usage pretty significantly in this design, and Melanie can probably speak to that or at least get some details. So, but we are looking at a pretty significant reduction in the actual irrigated sprinklered area with that. Again, I haven't done the research on whether the artificial surface actually does much to deal with the gopher issues to begin with. But beyond that point, I'm just sharing with you. I think a position where the council's concerns were there with regard to the synthetic. The community's concerns were clearly out there, and I just advocate to move if we want to move this project forward and try to get it into the pipeline. I would stay away from the argument, or we will be probably in an extended time to debate the issues and the merits and the values on the environmental process of synthetic versus natural turf.
John, can you help us though with, there was a plan previously. How is this different? How is it the same? What are we looking at here? Did we not have already a plan in place as to what phase 2 and 3 were going to be?
Phase all we did was all the calendar did actually was do phase 1 design, and we went through the process to look at the playground equipment.
Oh,
We did
okay.
an incredibly conceptual level work on phase 2 and said we would come back and start to work through this issue. As noted by Eddie last meeting of the council, they approved a contract or authorized the city manager to execute a contract with the civil engineer. So basically the civil engineer and Gates are going to be working on getting the stormwater work, getting the pavement to work, to get grades to work here, and also to deal with, we'll deal with the environmental. We have to go through a coastal development permit for phase 2. We did not have to do that for phase 1 because we were replacing a like with like facility.
Right.
So we did not go through really this extensive of a process and design, nor did we ever get to any kind of civil design that we're looking at this point.
So sounds like there's some like lack of agreement on whether or not artificial turf should be used throughout the community in this project. I'm curious about the play equipment. Was that something that there was more agreement on, that it should be swings that are added?
Yes.
Okay.
That was part of the outreach. That was part of the process from the last time through. Yes.
Okay. And so swings basically won.
Swings basically won, but that's why we want to go back out and talk. If there is if the community and feels perhaps differently, there's plenty of area to do other equipment, but we are pretty much locked into that brown area there because of existing setbacks, and we cannot encroach more into that. So the allowable uses is pretty limited, and the swings were the winning thing back in 2019, and we want to confirm that that's still where the community is landing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that swings are typically one of the more popular items, and I've definitely seen that special swing in use a lot. I feel like that's the one that they have at Quarry Park. They have something like that, and it definitely used. The only other thing that I've seen a ton getting used at the playgrounds it's actually like one of them is a really small thing, but so popular that there used to be lines. They have them at the park. It's in Palo Alto on the west side of the train tracks. They're like these spinning things that you like use your momentum to go faster.
The little spinners, the little seat spinners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those things are super popular too.
Yep.
And I don't know, we don't have them, I don't think, in any of our parks. And I always have noticed that those guys like get so much use at the parks.
I think we could, if we go to a pop-up, so where I have number 3, the it's like a spring rider, you see those, they're like horses or cars.
Yeah.
I think that an option could be a spinner versus a spring rider. They take up the same amount of space.
Yeah, I would highly recommend that over the thing that you put there.
It's a great idea. Yeah.
And then one other idea that might take up similar but could be slightly more space. I just like the little like spinning merry-go-round type things were always so popular for forever. And I saw in DC just like a week ago, they have this installment of spinning chairs that fit like, maybe they would fit like 3 kids, and they have like climbing rope that closes them in, which seems like a really great material for the coast. And you just like jump in this basket and then spin.
We can look at that too. I mean, we're not talking much more space than what this independent spring rider already has.
Yeah. So I just bring, like, it's whatever the community says they think they like, but as a mom, those were both things that were like super popular. And this thing in DC is like a variant of the spinning. I've never seen the thing in DC. It was so cool. I went in it by myself. But yeah, that's my thought on the little playground stuff. And I don't know if anyone else has any other comments or feedback around the playground or other things, elements that she's talked about tonight.
We do have an attendee with their hand raised.
Oh,
A
great.
couple of them. So if I could go
Good.
ahead and call on them.
Yeah.
Gonzalo Sal Torres, I unmuted you. Can you unmute yourself and
Yes, how are you tonight? Thank
Good,
you
how are you?
for allowing me to speak tonight. Thank you all for the thoughtful discussion. Just a few thoughts. First of all, I want to thank and agree with Mr. Doty. I hope I said it right. I agree that it should be natural turf for one specific reason. In Daly City, they have a really giant, they had a big park there, Gellert Park, and they use synthetic turf. And within about a year to a year and a half, it started to come apart, because of the use of it. It tends to be overused when it's synthetic, and a lot of little black pellets come up. And what happens is the black pellets become a problem for parents, for kids, because it gets in their shoes and whatnot. But anyway, that being aside, I like the natural turf idea. As far as gophers go, in my house, which is just around the corner from Frenchman's Creek Park, we laid down 3 layers of chicken wire, really tight, small chicken wire. And that significantly improved the problem with gophers. They're still around, but it certainly helped. So, I think in your design, as you're thinking about natural turf, maybe one consideration is how much chicken wire or mesh wire can you lay down? And mine was about 1/16 of an inch thick. It's got to be thick because these gophers got some sharp teeth, which I wish I had. So anyway, so natural turf is the way to go. I love it. Second thing, you mentioned that you were contemplating a basketball court. I wanted to advocate for that, and for one simple reason. When you drive around Frenchman's, you go around my block, I'm on Bordeaux Lane. If you drive around Bordeaux Lane, there's various basketball rims that are sitting on the street or laying on the street in front of people's driveways because the kids want to play basketball, but they're either blocking driveways, blocking the street. A couple of times I've had to stop my car, move them out of the way just to drive past it. Or they're set up near people's houses where if you throw the ball up and it goes off a rim, those of you who play basketball know the ball goes in a weird way, it goes over someone's fence. So my suggestion is where you have, I think it's on the, let's see, I think you're looking at it on the west side of the park, west to the right. If you're looking at the PowerPoint you showed, oh, thanks, Ms. Rodriguez, thanks. If you look at number 7 and number 5, if you go a little bit to the right of that, so if you're looking at 5 and looking at 7, go to the right of that, you don't really have to do a half court. You could do a, I don't know what the actual geometric shape is, but it's, think of it as a cone, like a cone, where the tip of the cone is where the basketball rim sits, and then it branches out from the cone wide, and there's a semicircle at the top. It's just enough concrete for a kid to draw a foul line to shoot baskets, if you will. Like if you just had if you're looking at a basketball court, the painted section, if you just did it that big, that might be enough to get the kids playing there. And if you do it right, you might be able to do like a semicircle in that right nice little corner you have over there to the right of number 7. It'd be great to put it there. And I think it'd be a great use for the park there, especially if you have picnics there. You can have the kids play basketball instead of having to go down the block and throw basketballs around because they're all over the place on weekends. Last thing is I love the parking. I do notice though that on the weekends, and this happened when I was going to coming back to my house one day on Bordeaux, there were several large trucks, vans, whatever. People were going to the beach, and it was about 9 o'clock in the morning or so. They left the truck there, and when I left to go something else around 5 or 6, the trucks were still there. So what they're doing is they're using the parking of the park to go to the beach, or they're using it to have whatever they want to do there. So it takes away from the charm of the park if you've got these big vans. So I don't know what power, I'm sure you don't have a power to do anything except for maybe an advocacy to the city council to do something by way of enforcing that the parking spaces are designed for people using the park, not for overflow beach parking. That's it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Now, I believe Sean, you have your hand raised. I should be able to talk now.
Wait, I think you unmuted me again.
I will mute you now. Are you there, Sean?
Talk to us, Sean.
You're unmuted.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, Sean, last call for your turn to speak. All right, I believe that is it then.
Okay, so would anyone like to discuss further?
Oh, Sean just raised his hand again. Should I give him one more chance?
Yeah, let's try him again. See
All
if we
right.
can get him in. I'm assuming he's from Frenchman's Creek. It would be good to hear from as many people from Frenchman's Creek as possible.
Agreed.
Right. I gave you permission to speak, Sean. I'm going to ask you to unmute by clicking this button. Hopefully that connects you.
We're not hearing anyone.
No. All right. Sorry about that, Sean. I'm not sure if it's a connection issue or whatnot, but unfortunately we can't hear you.
So
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
oh, there
now I
we
can.
go.
Can you hear
Great.
me now?
Yes.
Hang on. Sean, come back. I cannot hear them. Sorry.
It's okay. We're making progress here. Oh, we're muted again.
If it's my neighbor, I'll just go knock on his door.
It
Let me
could
get on.
be.
Say
Okay.
this, I'm happy, anybody who wants to talk to me about it. We can certainly talk about it and then take their input and deal with it. We can't connect tonight. This
Yeah.
is not the end of a conversation, I assure you.
So John, can you elaborate a little bit on what we are looking at like right now? Are we just like, this is like an idea, a conception of what to move forward with, but it's still something that is going to be vetted by talking to the Frenchman's Creek residents and etc., so that this is just kind of a preliminary, this is what we're thinking of, of doing, like, where are we with this? Yeah.
Maggie, can you pop up the site plan again?
Absolutely.
I did want to respond, if I could, through the chair, to the speaker with regard to the basketball.
Yeah.
And the issues with that deal. I hate to be the killer of all dreams. One of, just to be clear, one of the issues we have is that large swath of trees. There is a riparian area. And under the local coastal program and under the Coastal Act, those are protected. And under our coastal plan and program, we also have required setbacks. And one of the issues that we're contending with on this park is that we have no greater encroachment of development than what exists today, in essence, from those setback areas. So one of the reasons why the basketball court idea, whether half court or whether less than that, was problematic is because it just did not have adequate space to accommodate. And that's how we ended up with sort of the trade-off of some kind of additional play area there, namely at that point swings. And again, we'll hear more from the community on that. But I just wanted to be clear that that area by number 7 is untouchable, frankly, under the coastal plan. And the area noted as 3, we're going to have to look at in terms of the setback and where we are, and whether we can actually even push as far as the spinners and those things to that point because of the setback issue that we're dealing with. So that's a reality check, unfortunately, that we're stuck with and contending with, and why we're not looking at more assets particularly on this property. Although I think the community also said that they really wanted a place for the kids to be able to roam around a little bit, and perhaps even the dogs to run around a bit at times. So I just wanted to be clear for the speaker. And I'm happy to talk in more detail anytime privately with anybody who wants to discuss that in more detail. So through the chair, the question was asked, well, what is your role here tonight? What Melanie and I were envisioning tonight was simply to say, are we close enough to be able to go out to the community and have that sit down with them, do the pop-up and sort of present this package and sort of confirm the basics of this and move forward then with the civil engineering to make sure that we can make stormwater work, that we can make ADA accessibility standards work. Frankly, that we can afford it. I'm not sure that we can afford this, but we're going to try to do what we can to deal with it. Cost estimating is a big piece of the civil engineering, as well as working with Gates and Associates. So that'll be a big piece to this point. But we did not want to get too far ahead of the commission, to the community, without having a check-in. And really, this is a check-in to say, is this something that we can go out and do that pop-up and talk to the community about? Can we present this as maybe a city manager update to let the community know and see what's up? We can put it on our website. We can do all the things that we normally do that we haven't done yet. So that's really our ask tonight is to say, are we close enough that we could start to put this out to the community in a more meaningful and open manner to say, are we close? Or do we still need to go back to the drawing board a little bit on some of these factors?
Okay,
Okay,
good.
thank you. Given that comment, do people have any other questions, or are they feeling like they can answer the question, are we close enough to go to the community with this?
I have a question about about this area that involves 410 and 11. And I'm wondering, pretty much as far as I know, everybody is pretty close to everybody in Frenchman's Creek is in a single family home that has at least a reasonably decent, if not significant, backyard. So I'm wondering, it's like, okay, well, what can we do with that space? One of the things that even if you have a backyard, it's not necessarily conducive, especially because I know we have families in Frenchman's Creek. It's for like a kids party. So that is something I can imagine maybe people might want to use this space for. Based on your rendering, would that work? Do we have enough of what is needed there? I like the bouncy house idea because if they were having a party, that could be a definite area that people might want to use for a bouncy house. Is there a plug-in then to, is that something that we have there so that you can plug in a bouncy house, so that you can plug in something else that you might need? Do we have bathrooms?
Again, the bottom line is those are all comments that one can make. We don't have restrooms today. Clearly, to some extent, this is intended to primarily be a neighborhood park, but it is open to the rest of the community. The restroom question is a huge one, but what I can confirm with you is that the Ocean View was a $600,000 at that time for the restrooms alone.
Right.
The restrooms, I think the community would have some questions and concerns about the restrooms in general, in terms of ancillary potential issues with those. But beyond that point, is restrooms would blow out the budget on this entirely.
Right.
I think that we could look at during the active points, we could look at installing a porta potty down at that area if this became a point. The community obviously weighing in on that, but it's something that we could look at particularly in that picnic and kind of area there, that we could look at that during the high demand times. We have an ongoing contract for those. I know that they're not the most wonderful thing, but they are effective and relatively cost effective with it. So I think those are good comments. They're certainly valid comments, but I can tell you that any conversation about permanent restrooms on this
Yeah,
will
okay.
lead us,
I'm with you, John. I got it.
Complete financial.
I got it. I'm always with the, I'm always looking at the money aspect. So let's go back to that area in terms of really making it useful, because we do have a couple of picnic tables over on the other side. So there is somewhere where people can sit. Maybe this area, any consideration to actually turn, because, you know, a lot of people use this park to bring their dogs over there.
Yep.
The people who have dogs in Frenchman's Creek, especially. So it maybe to turn that into a dog park area.
Well, that's a possibility. You could certainly put that out there. You know, again,
It's just, you know, we know it's not a lot of space.
No.
And I'm just trying to think of ways to use that space most effectively.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time.
Let me just say,
yeah,
if I could just let me say this. This area was something that excited Eddie because from the recreation perspective and serving the community and a broader community, not necessarily all for this direct Frenchman's Creek community, which is that we have heard in our Smithfield outreach and various pushes that this community is, you know, needs places where it can go. It can have a picnic. It can maybe put up the bouncy house and have a party on a Saturday, you know, afternoon and deal with it. You know,
yeah, but then they'll start complaining that there's no bathroom there.
We included this area, and again, that's a fixable issue with frankly a portable potty, but you know, but here's what I will say to the commission with that. Frankly, we pushed along the idea of including this area because we thought that the community had asked for this and they had suggested this kind of passive area over there and some improvements, and we have a non-ADA accessible parking space and path of travel there. But frankly, from a cost perspective and frankly, having a conversation about a dog park and all the implications of that, I would absolutely be adamant that we just get rid of this section out of the conversation and focus back to what phase 2 was always intended to be, which is the main park, and not get lost in this, because again, I think we will get lost in an extended conversation about what's the best use for that easterly section that we are not in a place to perhaps probably afford either of the options at this point.
Good. I think that's good. Yeah, let's just focus on this other section.
Now, obviously, I'd like to hear from the other commission members and everything on that, but that would be a place to go with that, in my estimation.
John, after you go out to the public, this back in front of us again at some point. We can. So I mean, the real question is, because I mean, I think you've presented, we've got some ideas. I say, let's go out to the public, let's get some feedback, go through the process, bring it back to us. And then we can start making more of these suggestions. But I think, you know, we're going to want to hear more from the people in the neighborhood, because those are the people that really use the park the most. My personal sense is that most people walk their dogs down below where, what's that called? The group campsite is, and they go through that area for the dog for Sweetwood. So I'm not sure, but again, if they want it in the neighborhood, who am I to say? Because I don't live in that neighborhood. So
Maggie,
let's go through the process.
Maggie, can you back up a slide or two there? There, if you I just wanted to remind, when calendar and we'd gone through the public process, phase 3, the yellowed area was sort of that dog park in that more sloped area, and there is a lower spot there for a small area with that. And so that was a concept. the community, I would say they were, they were tepid on that, but that was something that we had talked about and they were tepid on it.
Okay.
But it did come up and we did identify that in the master plan sort of as an option. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, that phase 3 did contemplate maybe that idea of a very small fenced dog area there.
I mean, my feedback on, I really liked your thought about whether or not to include both elements. And I wonder if there's a way to present it that it potentially even there's like phase 2, which is the playground area. And then a phase 3 would be the additional area. Because with Smithfield as another project that is going to need funding, I am kind of concerned about investing the money in a park that doesn't have bathrooms and that's for a neighborhood specifically, and then not having as much money for a park that hopefully will have bathrooms and is kind of more intended for full community use and like suitable for housing all of those people. So like getting everyone really fired up about this very, very nice, like multiple phased Frenchman's Creek Park might be a little disappointing if then we have funding issues. So like, I like the whole design. I also am not a huge fan of like picnic tables and cement stuff. Like that to me personally was not super attractive, but I also think that this is a neighborhood park and should defer to the community somewhat. And I recognize that for parties, those are used for sure. If this is a party situation, people use them. I just am concerned about cost and how we spend the money so that the majority of Half Moon Bay residents can get the most out of it. Sorry, I think I froze. I'm going to undo my video for a minute.
You're good. You're good.
Okay. I don't know what anyone else thinks.
Well, first of all, I love, Hillary, that you are thinking about the money, because we all need to think about the money, especially with what we're dealing with, all of us in our own lives, let alone in doing this public stuff. I agree. I think that it's good for us just to focus on this second phase. Forget about the third phase. We'll see, if and when that ever, comes up again. But right now, if we're going to move forward with anything in Frenchman's Creek, I think we should just be focusing on that second phase.
And that's the playground area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
which for now,
That to define the phase 2 was the original
Yes.
phase 2, the park,
Yeah.
the active park area.
That's right.
Okay.
yeah, I'm a fan of calling that phase 2 rather than the entire thing.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with you, and I also think that having it as a line item that can be taken out is also, it gives them the option, so that here's the objective is the entire piece, but this is a line item that can be removed, so we can save money. But to at least present the entire project, or at least show them what's possible or where we're going, even if it is a phase 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely feel okay about that. I just would because I am not aware of how the community conversations have gone in the neighborhood. I just don't want people to be disappointed. That's my only concern about being like, you could do all of this, but we might need to take it away. And if we think that it's highly likely, we'll have to take it away. That's my only, I don't know, but I know that every time we get all these things coming to us, we keep hearing, and we didn't have enough money for that. And so that's why I am cautious on it.
John, give us your perspective on that.
Yeah, John, I would like to hear you.
Through the chair, I think that we can meet both of the objectives that you're talking about, which is to emphasize with our outreach and with our pop-up and all those things, the active park area. We've already looked at that concept down at the other end. We can re-engage that as phase 3, and we can sort of and present it out and get some comment on it and figure out whether that's something that the community is interested in, and whether they're going to push back strong for something else with that. And I think input on that's valuable, and I think we can still work on some of that, but I would suggest we will probably pull back on the civil work down there and really emphasize the work on the active, and try to spend our money most effectively to get us to the point of the active park improvements there. And again, we may very well have to look at phasing that a little bit, and or modifying some of the design to meet budget and to address those things. But the concepts are there, and I think we can accommodate your asks while still seeking some input from the community. So I think what it sounds like, your direction is clear. We got it, if that is direction.
Okay, do we need to vote?
You don't need a formal vote. I just we got consensus. If that's consensus, I think it was agreement. And we will invite you to the outreach events, and we will start working on with the website, e-news, all of these things, and starting to get a momentum going toward the idea of getting your input out there on the phase 2 and focus on active park area.
So, so you're saying omit what we consider the phase 3.
I'm not suggesting omitting it entirely, but I'm going to call it phase 3.
Okay.
And that's my suggestion, is don't omit it entirely, but allow the community to talk about it, but keep the focus on phase 2, the active park area, and not that easterly piece there. But let's get some comment on it and see where people land as we look at the future.
I'm in agreement. I think turning a blind eye to it is too obvious. So I like having a phase 3, or at least some way acknowledging it that we saw it. So
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I would like to hear what the community thinks too, because maybe they'll want something that's not as expensive also.
One of the things I didn't mention when we were, one of the things, there was a seat wall and kind of area there with that. One of the intentions of that was actually to put the donor wall that the Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Rec have asked and have been working on. And I think that's something that we've committed to, is working with them on that. So that's something that we are trying to figure out what the best approach to that, and that the idea with that seat wall was in part to accommodate the idea of that donor wall for phase 1. And I'm hopeful, I think, along with all in attendance tonight, that the Friends will continue to push for donations and work toward phase 2 as well.
Great. Okay. All right. I just want to say hi to Melanie myself. It's good to see you back. And thanks for the work that you put into this. Okay.
I look forward to talking to you guys soon. We'll see each other again.
All right. Very
Thank
good.
you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye, Melanie. I will talk.
All right. So next on the agenda, we have Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Recreation update.
Yeah, they just to let everyone know, Maria did let us know they wouldn't have a representative here tonight, but they do very much plan on being here for our meeting next month to go over some of their progress they've made lately, as well as kind of report out from how things went at the Summer's End Music Festival regarding their fundraising. So yeah, we'll see them next month.
Okay, so the next item is future items preview.
Okay, well, if we're going to jump in with future items, one of the things that I would like to see, but it could be already in the works, so Matthew or John, let us know, is the mural. First of all, that mural is coming along beautifully. I only saw it for the first time at Summer's End, and for the first time on a building. And it's looking fantastic. I absolutely love it. I think that it just made that whole area just so much more, it added so much atmosphere to that area. And I'm just looking forward to its conclusion. But when it concludes, I think, especially if we can time it maybe with the pumpkin way off, is to have a ribbon cutting and make sure that the newspaper knows that it's happening, all of that, make a big hoopla out of that. And to and also be announced at the way off that at 2 o'clock, whatever it's going to be, 3 o'clock, we're going to have a ribbon cutting to unveil the completed mural on Kelly. So I'd like to see that as a plan if it hasn't been already in the works. So any feedback from that? Are we going to try to make that happen? Okay. The other thing is looking at having a subcommittee for the concerts in the park for summer end. You did a great job, Eddie, of setting up. I arrived on the scene there and I thought, fantastic. The kids area, the other area, the whole thing was laid out really beautifully. I thought you did a fantastic job of that. There are things that, as always, can use tweaking, can use improvement. And so I just feel that having a committee, like not just, sort of taking all the responsibility yourself, having a committee to help and involve with all of that so that we continue to have wonderful events that bring the community together. And I am going to be very interested to hear from maybe we can get a report next month from somebody who is going to attend the Downtown Business Association meeting. Yes. To find out how they did. How did they get impact of it? Did they think that they would love to see this again?
Definitely.
You're muted, Paulette.
Yeah, and it goes back to what Hillary was saying earlier, which is that people come and then they visit the stores, hopefully, and all the various things. We were wondering if we could get a report out, but Paulette and I did a recap afterwards. We sat and just brainstormed a bunch of ideas, and one of the things we were wondering is if we could get a recap from Crystalline and see, I'm not sure if that's possible, but just to understand how the businesses in Half Moon Bay were affected. Was there positive energy from it? And if there was, again, back to, I think somebody opened with this, do we keep it in downtown or do we possibly move it in the future? But if there's benefit to the businesses of keeping it in downtown, that would be great information to have. And then possibly get them to quote unquote, possibly do some sponsoring opportunities in the future, as many other towns do. So it's not just on our back, and we can kind of get some of that money from some of those businesses to partner in. And then we had a bunch of ideas on offshoots of how to even make that happen, which we could leave to the subcommittee. That was the thought process behind that.
I like it. Adam and Paulette, I actually I'm going to be attending the next Downtown Business Association meeting with Crystalline and Karen Decker from the CMO. So
perfect.
We'll definitely get some feedback, engage them, and come back with some report outs for you.
And then maybe when we do the report outs, we can vote to establish a subcommittee.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I meant to respond, but I had another window up and I could not close it to unmute myself. Going back to the mural questions, and yes, Paulette, we are working on some sort of joint something with the Pumpkin Festival to officially cut the ribbon on the mural. The other thing that is coming together right now, we'll announce as it comes together more, The Pumpkin Festival is part of the 50th celebration.
Yes.
Doing a special exhibit at the library that opens, I think on Saturday. And then next Friday night, the 7th, they're going to have a little open house. And it's a display of 50 years of Pumpkin Festival posters. So what we're working with them on is adding the 4 submissions for the mural in a similar format and a little bit of information about that on display with those. So once that comes together, it just started coming together today. We'll notify everybody and put the word out, through our channels so that people know it's coming.
That's awesome. We were also wondering with the mural piece, back to that real quick, if we could involve during the ribbon cutting, if such a thing were to happen. Obviously, the council, the city council, or whoever wants to come from there, somebody from Parks and Rec commission, but we really also wanted to involve the people that are kind of involved making the actual, like, I think it's the art commission or whatever it's called. There's a bunch of people involved.
We had a community committee
that's what it was, the community committee. Thank you so much. And we want to kind of, like, our vision, which who knows if that could happen, would be to show kind of like all these people involved in making it happen and kind of like cutting the ribbon all together. But it's a community. It's kind of like that community bringing this energy to Half Moon Bay type of thing. Yeah. I think, Bubby, that was, Mom, that was all the topics we talked about, right? Did we miss anything? We can't hear you. You're on mute. That's why I jumped in.
Final thing that I wanted to put out there is, can we turn this at least into a Zoom meeting rather than a webinar? So that we can see it's as if we're in live, but, so that we can see who's here. We can read some body language, because I was disturbed on Nextdoor when someone felt that they were cut off at a Parks and Recreation meeting. I mean, we are so want public input, so for someone to feel slighted was a little disconcerting. And that's why I wonder if, especially if we do Zoom where you can see people, you can kind of see they're either nodding their head or they're no, something, so that, you have more direct connection with anybody who's attending the meeting.
Yeah. What I'll say is that is an item that is being taken up by the city council, and all of our public meetings will follow that.
Good.
And our city clerk is working on information so that they can have a workshop on that. I believe later in I think it's the second meeting in October, we were planning to do that.
Okay.
So based on that feedback, we'll make a decision about it.
All right.
And then otherwise, real quick, Eddie, I know, but Mom Paulette said it as well, but great job. That was it's a lot of stuff to put together. So I just want to thank you publicly. Absolutely. And say that you did a great job. I wasn't there for the earlier bands, but that last band was freaking awesome. So that was fun.
Thank you. It was myself and all the great staff that we have here and all the nonprofit partners that showed up. It was definitely a team effort, and I appreciate that. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, I echo that. That was a very good job. Couple things that I just wanted to ask about, and it's not necessarily for the next meeting, but I assume that things like this Maverick Festival is coming up has to get some approval, or do we have any input, or do we add thoughts to those kind of events to ensure that recreation is involved, or so that was just a question or thought there, because I'm looking forward to it, but I'm just wondering if we're involved in any of that conversation.
I'm happy to answer that. The Mavericks Film Festival that you're describing is taking place, I believe, in the Pillar Point Harbor, which is not within the city limits. It's unincorporated San Mateo County, so we actually don't have any authority or jurisdiction. I know that early on there were some conversations with the city about some involvement, and what we could offer wasn't something that they saw as a value add. And so we're not involved other than, promotion and just being a community supporters. So.
Okay. All right. And then the only other thing I want to say is thank you, Mr. City Manager, for the update on Smithfield and for the dignity and integrity that our city council holds on making sure everyone is safe in this community. So I appreciate your sharing that with us.
All right, Hillary, move us along.
Okay, what's next?
Okay, so next we have report outs.
I do have one more thing. Carter Park update. I've been asked by a number of people now, what is going on with Carter Park? They're telling me that something that was there is no longer there. I mean, so I think that for everybody, it's important to know what the status is, what the update is on Carter Park.
So let me take a whack. I think we are definitely going to be getting out to the community with a statement that gets everybody on the same page with where we are. What I can share tonight is that we are in negotiations again with the adjoining property owner for access rights, and that is moving along. And our contractor did have to pull back some of the work there, the fencing and work to get on basically our property. But the contractor is working with us, and we are optimistic that we can continue to move forward with the project, albeit at a bit slower pace than what we had anticipated. But Carter Park will be built. It will continue on, and we're confident in that fact.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you. Any other things people want to report?
No.
I have a tiny report, which is just that we are totally stalled with our volleyball meetings with the Half Moon Bay High. And John and Matt and Eddie, I am looking to you to maybe get some schedule availability to set up the next meeting with the city or with the school, because I think that's what needs to happen. And if we're going to have a meeting, I want to make sure you guys can be there. So I need your availability.
Hillary, why don't you reach out to Maggie and I tomorrow?
Okay.
And we can work on getting something coordinated. I'd be interested in having a quick chat with you at some point just to get an update of where things are stuck.
Okay.
Yeah, my sense is we probably need like a couple of sets of dates in out weeks, as options, because of course the people we're dealing with have their own issues getting availability. Like there's so many different people to coordinate with. It's like more difficult than you could possibly imagine.
I know. Like the creation of the doodle polls to get the times is very exhausting and time consuming. And so let's talk. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Any other report outs? Okay, what's next then?
Okay, next we have commissioner comments and then adjournment.
Any additional commissioner comments?
I'm excited to put RJ Jennings on one of these committees pretty soon. This is exciting. We got another sucker out there. This is good.
I'm just so excited.
I think you're muted. I think you're.
I just want to apologize, especially to Maggie, for unleashing on you earlier on. I was at the height of my frustration just when I got into the meeting. So it was a very difficult moment there. But I do hope that we can, not trying to, make you feel bad. I'm just very frustrated with making sure that we can get these meetings started on time and that the links work. So if we can get that straightened out, because the rest of the meeting was beautiful in terms of the slides, the everything, really great job. on how beautifully the rest of the meeting went on. So kudos to you. And again, apologies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paulette. And what I would suggest is between now and our next meeting, if each of the commissioners might bring their device that they access meetings with, if it's portable, we could schedule a time to come to City Hall and do a little bit of testing and see if we can pinpoint the issues so that we don't have these issues the night of the meetings.
Yeah.
Happy to do it. Yeah. Happy to do it. So I just want to say again, RJ, so happy to have you here. I think it's great not only just to have a fourth commissioner, but also the wealth of that you bring to the table is tremendous. So very happy. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you. I'm looking forward to another walk that we're long overdue for. So
we've been waiting for you for quite a while.
Yes, we found that person. Very good.
Thank you. I'm honored. I really am honored because there's some great, some great energy here, and just really glad to be a part of it. So thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, shall we adjourn then?
Yes, let's adjourn.
Great. Have a great evening, guys. Thanks everyone for coming.
All right. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
All right.